Frustrated passengers waited in vain, while many resorted to making their journey on foot. Others engaged the services of motorbike riders. Those who could afford used the services of Uber, Bolt or Yango. Commuters in areas such as La Paz, Ashaman, Medina, Ablekuma, among others, were most affected by the strike. Some workers shared their frustrations with GBC News.
From Sprinters to Accra, it has caused traffic jam, because they are stopping all the truck drivers and the taxis on the way so that they shouldn't come into town.
Mostly when I'm coming to work, it takes me just about 1 hour to get here, but today it took me about 2.5 hours. There was no vehicle to pick anybody towards Accra, so we were all packed up to somewhere around 7:30 before we even had one car coming through, and even with that, you could see that we were all rushing for the vehicle, which was very bad.
From Circle to Accra, and a normal circumstance would cost 2 cedis, but in this context, I had to get 15 cedis to get Okada to bring me to Accra, which in any way or in any given day has more or less increased my expenses for today. And going back, possibly I have to explore that same means back to Circle where my office is. If this thing should continue, it is going to bring a lot of untold hardship to the public and then the ordinary Ghanaian.
The sit-down strike, directed by the Coalition of Commercial Transport Operators, is to back home demands for government to remove 5 taxes contained in the 2022 budget. The Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy, the Special Petroleum Tax, Energy Sector Levy, Energy Debt Recovery Levy, and the Sanitation and Pollution Levy from the pump price of petroleum products.
Now, in the final month of the year and with the festive season approaching, motorists, passengers and other road users are being reminded to be extra cautious, especially on the road. In a crowded launch has taken place of an initiative to ensure that we improve upon adherence to road rules so that we can prevent the carnages that we see and also save lives.
Traffic injuries and deaths remain one of the growing public health problems in Ghana. Statistics from the Motor Traffic and Transport Department, MTTD, of the Ghana Police Service show that from January to September 2021, 2,126 commuters were killed in road traffic crashes. Causes of these road accidents include drunk driving, the major factor among commercial drivers, overtaking, overspeeding, jumping red lights, among others. With Christmas approaching, a sensitization program dubbed Mecha Mincha, meaning if I'll drive, I will not drink, has been organized for commercial drivers at the Newplant station to minimize road accidents before, during and after Christmas.
I just want a lot of the drivers here to picture that for a moment. You guys are breadwinners in your houses as well. That's why you drive, right? So have a think about what will happen to your families if something happens to you.
The campaign is also to promote the SDG Goal 3, which is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. The Regional Commanding Officer of the Motor Traffic and Transport Department.
A lead story of the day, transport operators at the one municipality of the Upper West region also joined the strike. Our correspondent Salah Abdul-Wahab reports that passengers at the lorry terminal were stranded while operators of tricycles were on the streets preventing their colleagues from working.
When GBC News visited the lorry station this morning, many of the stations were not loading. Some of the passengers were also stranded. They spoke to GBC News about their frustrations.
We are actually here because this morning when we got here, we realized that they were having some red bands. When we inquired from station managers, the information they are having a sit-down strike. Well, we have no any other option to wait a little and see.
If you are crying about, I do have a now pro. You go to Momo say, "Can I go strike?" Yes, I try. No man so I know. Yes, I'm quite baby. If you inquire, I'm fast to be. It's more than my name. Operators of tricycles, popularly known as Yellow, were also not working. Their leader tells GBC News why they have joined the strike.
Of late, there is increment in fuel
prices. It has gone up too much. And if you buy a fuel like say 40 cedis, you go around at the end of it.
Of course, we did not get any information from anybody. There's no any association who contact us or invite us to discuss anything about strike issue. So that is why we are operating. We normally take instruction from our stakeholders. Well, we have a stakeholder who give us instruction. So whatever thing happen, they have to sit and negotiate and dialogue with things. Whatever they come out, they give it information. So we use that information to do our job here.
It is too early for now to determine the impact of the strike. What I can say is that some passengers are unable to reach their destinations, and it is their wish that the impasse is addressed as quickly as possible so that they can resume their normal movement and businesses. For GBC News, Swala Abdul Wahab.
Swala Abdul Wahab is on the line to give us more as to how the situation looks like now. Swala, if you can hear me, it's been several hours since the leadership of GPRTU communicated to their members to suspend the strike. Has that reflected in your region?
Yes, Abdul Rahman, I can confirm that the strike has been suspended. I'm just standing close to the market. The vehicles that were not loading have now started loading to move to their destinations. When I was at the lorry terminal, some of them didn't get means to get to wherever they were going to. That means they would have been disrupted somehow. So I would say that yes, some businesses were disrupted, but once it has been called off as we speak, I believe the impact may not be too much.
Swala, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on this issue from the Upper West region. Now, the Ghana Shippers Authority has trained personnel of the Ghana Police Service in the Upper West region on the importance of transit trade and the role of the security in ensuring the country's transit corridor is a preferred choice for investors.
Mali are among Ghana's main transit trade partners. Some drivers who use the northwestern corridor blame undue delays along the corridor on security personnel. The seminar was therefore to sensitize the police on their role in facilitating trade between countries to enable the country to derive maximum benefit. Mr. Isaac Tessia Akwa is the Kumasi branch manager of the Ghana Shippers Authority and in charge of Northern Sector. The Upper West Regional Commander of the Ghana Police Service, ACP Peter Indekugri, said the police will continue to provide security for transit.
Or even hours, you are restricting the movement that they are talking about. That is where the police comes in, free of restriction.
A director at the MTTD, Superintendent Dr. Samuel Sasumensa, entreated personnel to be conversant with the road traffic regulations and exhibit high level of professionalism in the discharge of their duties.
Now let's go back to our earlier issue because it is the lead story of the day across all platforms. The strike action by drivers who are agitating and requesting that government remove some taxes on the price build-up of petrol and diesel. We've been joined by an official from the Ghana Private Road Users Transport Unions, GPRTU, to help us understand what the outcome of the meeting at the presidency is, whether the meeting has even started or not. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Moro. We've lost him on the line, and production team is working to raise him back so that he help us understand what has been going on in terms of engagements with the government officials. Now, 21 probation officers from Greater Accra have received 3 days of training on a manual.
Justice Act 2003, Act 653, the Justice for Children Policy 2016, and others. All of the above legislations and other policies are pointers to the important work of probation officers to supervise, protect and assess juvenile offenders and children.
Our intention as Ghana YMCA is to be able to offer coping strategies to these young people and build capacities of also other state actors and non-state actors as well.
Currently, the 1997 manual guiding probation officers in performing their duties is outmoded and does not include any of the child rights incorporated in the various legislations and policies mentioned above.
This is a big breakthrough for the Department of Social Welfare. For some time, we have never been able to bring probation officers together, but this is the beginning of many more engagements.
The training was aimed at equipping participating officers with efficient knowledge on how to incorporate the new manual in the delivery of their work.
We thought it worthwhile that young people who are at fault with the law usually will need the support of these probation officers. And sometimes, depending on the changes in the laws, the probation officers are not able to give the appropriate support to these young ones.
Participating officers came from Adawes, Ashaiman, Gawes, Lagma, Lekma, Shayo Sudoku and Wejagbawe for the 3-day training program.
Now let's go back to our earlier story on the strike action by drivers who are demanding that governments remove some taxes on the price buildup of petroleum products, specifically diesel and petrol. And this morning we woke up to the strike action, which has disrupted a lot of activities. But we know the GPRT has issued a statement asking its members to suspend the action amidst engagements with government officials. We have on the line the public relations officer of the GPRT, Abbas Moro, to help us understand some of the issues and what's the level of engagement has been so far with government. Mr. Moro, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you too.
It's been several hours since you issued that statement asking your members to suspend the strike action. What has been the outcome of the meeting with government officials, if it has even been held?
No, this is a fresh call, a special one from the president himself. All this while he hasn't spoken, and unfortunately,
Mr. Moro, in Ashaman, some members of your union are arguing that you have not informed them officially of this suspension, hence they are not returning to work.
We have. They've just decided to take today's suffering. This is all that we are asking for, which will reduce the petrol current prices for us.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're always welcome, my brother.
Is the public relations officer of the GPRT, and as he just indicated, they are about to go in with government officials as they try to resolve this whole challenges and get us going to work and returning home without any difficulty as we encountered this morning. Away from this development, partners in the agriculture sector want government to intensify its collaboration with farmer-based organizations to train and encourage the youth to venture into agriculture. Speaking on GBC News Current Affairs program Talking Points, President of the Ghana Agricultural Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Philip Abayori, said a joint effort between the government and partners in the sector will ensure successful implementation of policies in the agri sector.
You know, farmers, they are very knowledgeable person, practicable. But, you know, our policymakers, they forget about the people who are already on the ground, dirtying their hand, seeing the mistake and correcting it. The government will engage us so that when they have a policy, we'll tell them, this is doable. If you invest in it, you can get a return. Then we'll look at it and move the country forward.
The youth can get money in agric. There's nothing which can give the youth money than agric. We started very young. I started in agric when I was about 16, 18 years old. Took interest in agric. I became a Commonwealth best farmer. I became a national best farmer. I mean, that kind of thing. And I'm still in it, you understand? The issue is that you have to be consistent, dedicated. The challenges will come. Which industry that if you are there, there will be challenges. But you have to master eventually, you overcome them and then become a master of the game and you can do your work.
Especially into drains, the assembly member for Accra Newtown, Mr. Sule Barry, commended the club for the exercise and encouraged all Ghanaians to support the campaign to keep all frontage clean. He said punitive measures will be introduced when implementation properly takes effect from next year. You're watching News Hour live on GBC News and on GTV. We are also live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation.
Good afternoon and welcome. Time now for the business segment, and I am Dorothy Achimine. Leadership of the Ghana Private Road and Transport Union GPRTU are going in a crunch meeting at the presidency as government works to address the concerns of the transport operators. The GPRTU has directed its members to suspend the ongoing strike. The suspension is expected to normalize transportation challenges seen across the nation. Earlier on Monday, the drivers want government to take off 5 taxes on the price build-up of diesel and petrol. Joining us for more on this development is a research analyst at the Institute for Energy Security, Mr. Fritz Moses. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us, sir.
Good afternoon and thanks for having me.
You're welcome. First of all, how feasible are the demands by the drivers for some taxes to be removed?
All right. We think the demand for reduction or removal of some tax component in the price build-up is huge enough because, in essence, what we do is we have about 2 cities, 40 pesos in the price build-up made up of taxes. And so if you are buying a liter for 6 cities, 80 pesos, you know that about 2 cities, 40 pesos of that is taxes and levies and markings that go to the government. But then really, if there is a demand that you should remove about, even if it's just 1 city that's been demanded for removal, it would go to affect the price substantially because that will move the price per liter of petrol and diesel from about 60 to 80 pesos, way below 6 cities to somewhere around 5 cities, 70 pesos or 5 cities, 80 pesos. And that we believe that it's substantial enough.
So then, do you agree that the removal of these taxes will offer long-term relief to the drivers in terms of pricing?
I think that in essence, what they will tell Ghanaians, pushing us as consumers, because the drivers themselves are consumers. We have private road users out there, consumers. So at the end, they would pushing the the consumer temporarily. But again, what we have to also understand is that the dynamics or the substances that are affecting the price of both the international markets, oil market prices, the fluctuations that we experience consistently. And then also, of course, you have the local factors being the city exchange rates against the US dollar, then also the tax component. And so even if we are taking out the tax components, with the assumption, the hope will be that the other material or other variables will become feasible and will become stable at least for reduction on fuels in the interim, say in the next 3 months, in the next 2 months, or even in the next month. We may have prices still rise because the other two variables, the CD exchange rate, international market prices, would continue to fill up.
Okay, Mr. Fitz-Moses, my very final question. Coming from IES, what will be the recommendation on how this sustainably?
We think now going forward, we must as a country begin thinking of how we can use our we produce and extract here. If you go to oil exporting countries like Nigeria and you see the price at which they buy fuel is lower than what we are buying, even though we are all producing and exporting oil. So we must be able to keep up our local refining capacity. At the end of the day, we can't always rely on the international market when we are producing oil in our own country. We may still be left at the mercy of the determinants of international oil price, and that may not help us going forward in the long term.
Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
That was a research analyst at the Institute for Energy Security, Mr. Fitz-Moses, talking to us about how government can find a lasting solution on petroleum price issues here in Ghana. We move to the Ashanti region, where our correspondent Nicholas Osewusi joins us live from the region with how the strike action impacted businesses. Nicholas, what have you got and what have you been gathering so far on the strike in Kumasi?
Okay. I'm currently located at the new Agogo community lorry terminal here in the Ashanti region, specifically in the Asokwa municipality of the Ashanti region. If you come here, from the pictures you are seeing, the place is bustling with activities. The place is full of activities. Vehicles are moving in and out of the lorry terminal, and there don't seem to be any problem with both commuters and then the transporters. I've got to engage some of the leadership of the transporters here at the community lorry terminal to find out exactly what is happening. Yes, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Mpacho, your friend saying? The friend knew Ibrahim. Mpacho, and crying, and in some other regions, strike, drivers need to be air strike. I have buy me who sir, I didn't hear.
No, but I'm young as I know, man, some see demonstration on Bayan, but no time by me to say, we see be more yet. Nibusa as Alentira Bimu and I, and also your penny phone cafe and Benefancy Auntie, the Anthony, Yentini and Amalini. Not Batamu Union, a dear union, Protua. I have said stations are who obey Namu pretty a Kohene. I call Turk, the coast of Folas, the call Jusso, the call Santasi, the Intimento, anybody, Papa. And I understand how your income no more demand more, you know. Fatia Bebre, and about an drivers no try, or Munya, 20 can be gone, Maconia, Taurasica, and the Fatia Bebre. And they say, I dear Pa, near the Amohishe, and son of Watom, of Matom. Yeah, he has a banner photo no bono, but this is a fee. And Gabiata to you, Quantum Minu, no one for Fana Capano, then Fanya. That's a young Shia Pempunto or my moo. And put on the Ankaya, I'm telling a daughter. I'm telling you too much. And the idea son of a catcher buying. I buy the Democrat and Mr. Rano. You want to papa. You want to be baby. In the government, you be for a foot and one. In Quebec, you made us say. Papa driver, market,